I've been going through a bit of a channel identity crisis lately. I started this channel as a combination art and storytime channel where I could share some of the silly stories from my life and show off my art in the background. This was the main focus of my channel for the first year or so, and my most popular video, the one that made my channel first blow up, was a storytime video. But lately I've been finding more joy in doing videos where the art takes center stage. Experimenting a bit and talking about character design and writing and comics and crafting and narrative has been a real joy for me in the past few months, and I decided I want to embrace that experimentation and play around a little bit. Throw some metaphorical spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. And because of that, I figured now was the perfect time to tackle some staples of art YouTube. And what better way to explore a channel identity crisis than by drawing in a bunch of different art styles? You clicked on the video, you already know what's coming, we're doing an art style challenge. The rules are simple. I made a list of 10 art styles from different media that I enjoy, and I'll be drawing my channel mascot / VTuber star Carmine in those styles. I'll be emulating the art of the different series as well as I can, and when appropriate, slightly modifying some details of my character's design to fit better within the universe of the series. Also, I'm only doing character busts because I'm busy as hell this month. If I do another of these, I'll try and do full bodies, but for this one, we're just keeping it simple. Lastly, before we dive in, an important part of doing a challenge like this is gathering reference, and that was made way easier with this video's sponsor, Milanote. Milanote is a tool to help you organize your creative projects. If you're anything like me, you like to gather references and plan ideas before tackling a big project. Finding inspiration images for things like composition, colors, outfits, all that good stuff. And Milanote is the perfect tool to help with that, allowing you to keep all your ideas in one place and organize them in a way that's helpful to your process. Like I said, Milanote was a huge help in gathering all my references for this video. If you're not sure where to start, they have a ton of built-in templates to get you started, but I always enjoy the freedom of a blank slate. First, I made a new blank board for the project itself. Then I made 10 subboards, one for each art style I was planning on emulating. Then I was able to drop all my reference images into the board and arrange them however I liked for maximum organization. One cool thing that helped me speed up the process was their web clipper tool, a browser extension that lets you grab just about anything straight from the web and drop it into your boards, no copy paste required. I also took some notes on the notable aspects of each art style to keep in mind while I was working on the artworks themselves. But what if you need to access your boards offline like I did when I worked on the sketches for this video on a flight? Well, Milanote has you covered there as well because you can download your boards as image files or PDFs for easy reference, even while you're stuck on an airplane with no internet. I actually did all 10 of the sketches for this video while on my flight to Chicago for C2E2, and having my references readily available was a huge help. I haven't just used Milanote for my videos, though. I've started using it for my monthly mail club artworks, making inspiration boards for the stickers and postcards I send out to patrons. I can grab pictures from the internet, organize them however I like, add notes by typing or drawing on my references, adding captions to images, all kinds of stuff. I've actually also been using it to outline a new story project I'm working on, and I can't show you guys this board because it's covered in spoilers, but it's fun, it's exciting, your girl's working on a novel, and it may or may not include a few characters that I've talked about in my previous videos, so stay tuned, follow me on Blue Sky, and stick around for updates on that eventually, I guess. Milanote is available for free with no time limit, so check out my link in the description to try it for yourself. Alright, sponsor over, let's get into the video. So I said at the start that I was going to be emulating 10 art styles, but what I didn't tell you was that I actually made a list of over 20 art styles I was interested in trying to replicate, and had my Patreon supporters vote on which art styles they wanted to see most. And I gotta tell you, I kinda lucked out here because they mostly picked animated TV shows, which are way easier to emulate than some of the more complicated stuff I had in mind. When I said at the beginning that I was busy this month, I wasn't kidding. You ever sell your house, buy a new one, move to a new city, and then fly to an out-of-state convention with 100K attendees all in the span of like 2 weeks? Yeah, it's been a time over here. But back to the art styles, we're gonna be starting with the easy ones and working our way up to the difficult stuff, so we're starting with my own style as a base. People often ask me how I developed my art style, and the truth is I mostly just took the stuff I loved in other people's art and crammed as much of it into a blender until I made a delicious art style smoothie. Big ol' eyes, bright colors with cel shading, expressive faces, and thick varied line art all combined to form the Star Special. Some of those traits I got to include in the art styles I attempted to copy for this challenge, and others, not so much. But let's start with the easy stuff and work our way up. First up is Gravity Falls. I love simple art styles like this. Cute faces with simple shapes and flat shading, it's very cartoony and expressive, and you can do a lot with very little. People can sometimes give simple art styles a lot of guff for not being, quote, interesting enough, but the truth is that a simple art style is the art of abstraction and making as appealing of a design in as simple form as possible, and it can be surprisingly difficult to nail. Plus, with simpler art styles like this, it's really easy to see every mistake. What looks easy to draw can be surprisingly difficult to make appealing, and I always admire art styles that do it well. Gravity Falls' art style has these big circular eyes and rounded shapes for the hair and faces, plus very smooth and almost noodly bodies and limbs. You'd be hard-pressed to find a sharp corner on most of these designs, so I really focused on getting the art nice and smoothed out. My persona is intended to be the same age as me, so I made my proportions closer to the teen and adult characters in the show, but I still wanted to give her a youthful look and snagged a few design elements from the younger main characters as well. And blam! Gravity Falls star. You'd never see her in the show, though, because she just stays in her house all day. Whoops. Next up, another Disney Channel show, and the show with the most votes in my Patreon poll, it's The Owl House. I first watched this show a couple years ago, and while I'm not a die-hard fan of it or anything, I can definitely see why it's so loved and enjoyed my time watching it. If this show had come out when I was in high school, Teenage Star would have latched the hell onto this series. I would have been truly insufferable. I know this about myself. I love a fantasy, I love a magic, I love an ongoing series with mysteries and continuing plot and characters who start as villains getting a good guy turn over the course of the series. Yes, 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 I love it. However, I'm not personally huge on the art style itself. Don't get me wrong, I love that it's simple while still keeping a surprising amount of details in the characters and outfits. I love that the hair is really simplified into fun shapes, but there's something about the way the faces are stylized that never really stuck with me. I think it's just that I don't like the little upper lip curve thingy Luz and a few other characters have. It's a relatively minor detail, but it's just not my thing. I still think this art came out pretty cute, though. I still need to finish watching this series, though. Whoops. Moving right along to... Okay, so remember when I said I would have been insufferable about The Owl House if it had come out when I was a kid? Well, here's a show that did come out when I was a kid that I absolutely was insufferable about. Avatar: The Last Airbender, one of my favorite cartoons of all time and a huge influence on my artistic sensibilities. I remember watching this show all the time as a kid, and I even remember watching the little shorts on Nickelodeon where the creators tell you how to draw the characters, and... Okay, I have a little secret surprise for you guys. When I was in middle school, I had a project where I had to make a time capsule with things I liked in it, and one of the things I put in it was a drawing I did of myself. And because I had been watching a lot of Avatar at the time, I tried my best to emulate the style of the show for it, and behold! Listen, 13-year-old Star did her very best, alright? Also, this drawing is probably older than a lot of the people who watch this channel, and that's weird. Oh my god. But anyway, getting back to it, while this was intended to mostly take inspiration from the original show, I also took a lot of points from the Legend of Korra series, since the main characters in that one are a little older, so the proportions would line up with my character better. But by doing that, I noticed a lot of the subtle changes made between the two series. The original show is very rounded and simple, while Korra has a lot more angular shapes. It's especially noticeable in the hair, I think. I'm not especially happy with this one, if I'm being honest. It feels like it's missing something, but it's hard to put my finger on it. Well, can't win them all. Let's keep going. Amidst all the drama of Studio Ghibli's artwork getting stolen for generative AI models, lots of folks were clamoring for me to take a stab at this one. But we don't do drama on this channel, so I'm just going to talk about the art. Spirited Away was the first Ghibli movie I ever saw, and I saw it in theaters with no idea what I was getting into, and it captivated me. To this day, it's still my favorite, but I also have a major soft spot for both Howl's Moving Castle and Kiki's Delivery Service. I always rewatch Kiki when I'm feeling down about my art, and the artist character is just... Man, I don't need to use a freaking AI to see what I'd look like in a Ghibli movie. This is it, right here. The brown hair and a ponytail, the red tank top and jean shorts, even the freaking flip-flops, and she's an artist? This is me, right here, baby. Anyway. One of the things that made this section of the challenge more challenging is that while people tend to think of the Ghibli art style as one cohesive thing, if you look closely, there's actually a lot of subtle differences between each movie. Kiki has faces that are more simplified, while Howl's Moving Castle has a bit more detail, mostly in the way the eyes are rendered. Rather than sticking to one movie in particular, I tried to find a happy medium between my favorites. While this art style is a touch more detailed than some of the other shows we've tackled so far, Ghibli stuff is still pretty simplified. The clothes are all pretty puffy and don't have a lot of folds, the hair is rendered in these big chunks that I just want to run my fingers through, and there's a bit more detail in the shading while still keeping it streamlined for animation purposes. It's still pretty simple compared to some other anime, but it's nice and I like it. Anyway, here's Ghibli Star. I almost said in the last one that Studio Ghibli was my first real brush with anime, but once I sat down and thought about it more, yeah, no, that honor absolutely belongs to Sailor Moon. I remember renting the DVDs of the movies from Blockbuster over and over again as a kid, much to my mother's annoyance, just because I loved the cute girls in their sailor outfits kicking butt and fighting crime with magic and sparkles. Baby Star ate that up. Sailor Jupiter has always been my favorite. My love, my angel, my queen, I kneel! But a large part of that is because when I was younger, I was drawn to her because we had some superficial visual similarities. Mostly the hair. I wore my hair in a ponytail most of the time, so I liked characters that did too. So when it came time to draw myself in the style, I definitely took heavy reference from Sailor Jupiter. Big fluffy ponytail with the delicate little swirls at the end. This was also one of the ones I had some trouble with just because I usually work with a pretty thick line art in my own pieces, and meanwhile for this one I had to do really thin line art with no variation, and because all of the art styles I've done up until this point have been animated, all of them have had very minimal to no line thickness variation to them, and drawing like that makes me want to chew my own arms off. Give me the line variation, I need it, where is my beloved gone? This style is, I think, the most traditional anime-styled one for this video. Big eyes with lots of details, bright colors, and the most complicated shading style, both shadows and highlights, wowza. And of course I couldn't resist putting some sparkles in the background. It's mandatory, don't act surprised. In the name of the stars, it's time to do some art. Let's move on. While Sailor Moon was chronologically my first brush with anime, Pokemon was the one I watched a lot more of. I remember sprinting home from the bus stop every day because our school let out at 2:45 and Pokemon aired at 3. So while I usually missed the first couple of minutes, if I booked it home from the bus stop, I could catch the tail end of the theme song and not miss too much of the actual episode. And I was not an athletic child, so that should tell you how much I loved the series. While the first season of the Pokemon anime is what I hold the most childhood nostalgia for, I decided to try emulating the art from the games instead, specifically the official art from around the Black and White era. What I loved about Pokemon's art style as a kid, I still love now. The simplified facial features and sharp angles combined with really nice shapes in the hair and outfits. I love how, rather than muddying up the designs with lots of realistic details, so much of the art is just simplified down to a big shape. Realistic bow with lots of varied angles and folds? Nope. Shape. Shirt collar that lays the way a realistic shirt collar would? Nope. Shape. Pokemon's shape language is incredible, and honestly, there's part of me that just wants to play around more with studying this art style. The shape language is legitimately just so well done. Also, while I've done cell shading for all my pieces up until now, this time I actually had to do some softer shadows, and man, why the heck did I struggle so much with this? The shading is deceptively difficult for some reason. Come on, Pokemon, what the heck? Anyway, Ace Trainer Star wants to battle. Wait, what do you mean, not that kind of ace? Hey, so remember when I said I was only gonna do busts and not full body illustrations? Well, I made an exception for this one. It's a Wind Waker time, baby! Specifically the renderings from the concept art. Fun fact, when I was first introduced to this game by a neighbor kid, he really hated the art style of Wind Waker and was very loud about hating it. So when I watched him play it at his house, I said I also hated it, even though I didn't think it was that bad. And then a few years later, when I was finally able to own the game myself, I got so mad that he was so mean to the game because Wind Waker is gorgeous, and anyone who disagrees is gonna have to square up and fight me. We are gonna tussle, goddammit. I adore the art style of Wind Waker, both the game with its lineless cel-shaded style and the concept art with a super thick brushwork. Seriously, I love this concept art so much. Look at that line width, look at those sharp corners and volumetric shapes, I love it. I've actually emulated the Wind Waker style a fair bit in the past, so this was the one that I felt the most comfortable and familiar with. And I've actually drawn Wind Waker Star in the past, so here's the old and new iterations. Which one do you think is best? Okay, but seriously, I am behind the Denny's and waiting to fight anyone who is a Wind Waker hater. My fists are up. Fight me. Okay, who's ready for some tasty art? No? Bad pun? Okay. Dungeon Meshi is a show I wasn't sure I was going to like at first, but it really captivated me the further I got into it. I can be really picky about my fantasy media because I prefer series that prioritize the characters and their story rather than going into big world histories, which feels so common in fantasy. But Dungeon Meshi has this perfect blend of giving us just enough world building to keep it interesting while still making sure that the main focus never strays too far from the characters and their story. And can I just say, Studio Trigger animating it certainly didn't hurt. While I don't have a whole lot to say about the art style aside from the fact I really like how the eyes are rendered in the show, this was notable as one of the few series in my lineup for this challenge that actually gave me proper reference for how to draw elf ears. Thank you, Dungeon Meshi, I love elves and I owe you my life. While I do like how the final product came out for this one, since it's one of the newer series, I wasn't sure if I really captured the art style well. I think part of it is just that the show hasn't really ingrained itself into my brain the way most of the other series have, so the art style is less immediately recognizable. I'm not sure if that's just me, though. I did my best and I think it came out cute, but what do you guys think? We're nearing the end and getting into the more complicated stuff now, and it's time to dive into another of Star's favorite series of all time. Fullmetal Alchemist swooped into my life in middle school, and when I tell you this show took over my brain, I mean it. I was obsessed with this series like no other, and it still holds a firm grip on my heart to this day. It had a huge impact on not just my art, but also my storytelling sensibilities, to the point that I often tell people my webcomic cast-off is a cross between FMA and Avatar: The Last Airbender story-wise. I love how we follow the characters as they work to solve the mysteries of the world while chasing down their personal goals. I love how the cast has a wide variety of body types and facial features. I love the magic system and the badass combat scenes. I love it all so much! For my take on this art style, I mostly looked at the title card splash art from FMA Brotherhood. You know, the ones that go,
Fullmetal Alchemist.
Like that. For specific characters, I looked mostly at Winry and Riza, my queens, with some splashes of other characters to get references for how specific clothing styles are rendered. This was definitely one of the times I was kind of sad I didn't do full body poses, because the way that clothing and shadows are done in the show is just so nice. It's definitely more grounded and realistic than the simpler art styles I was praising earlier, but like, we as artists can appreciate different ways of doing things. And I love the sharp, angular shading in this series a lot. It's so tasty. I think of all the art styles in this video, I had the most fun with this one. Getting to loosen up and go ham on the shading was a ton of fun, and now I just want to do more studies of this art style too. Oh god. We've reached the final art style and also a wild card, because out of all the series in this video, this is the only one that isn't animated. Mostly because the anime just hasn't come out yet, but I am waiting so patiently for it. I am so normal about this series. So let's talk about Witch Hat Atelier. While I only started reading this series a few years ago, Witch Hat has become, and I am not exaggerating here, one of my favorite manga of all time. And like, man, where do I even start? Okay, well, first of all, the art is gorgeous. The artist has this rendering line art style that involves shading things like clothes and hair by just adding more lines to it, and it's so tasty and satisfying to look at. The colored illustrations are also rendered with this very soft coloring style that doesn't steal the thunder of the ink work, but elevates it to an even better final product. It gives the art this sort of worn, antiqued texture that is just such a treat for the eyes. And going beyond the art, the story, I am dead serious here. If you are any kind of artist, you need to read Witch Hat Atelier. The story has a lot of really good messages about art and improving and bettering your skills, but it also has a lot to say about real-world issues like education, inequality, and disabilities, among other things, in a serious but still fantastical way that really shows how much thought and love is put into every aspect of the story. And also, best of all, Kifri's in it. Look at my beautiful man. And before the internet at large becomes obsessed with this man, I want it on the record, I loved him before the anime came out, okay? That is my beautiful, problematic man! I love him! While I was sort of scared to try and copy the art style from this series, I actually ended up having a lot of fun with it. There's a sort of meditative quality that comes from doing the line art and the hair, and rendering it was tricky, but still a lot of fun. While it's definitely the furthest style from my own, I still had a lot of fun with it, and if this convinced even one person to give this manga a shot, then I have succeeded. But everybody watching this should go read it, and I'm dead serious about that. But with that, that's all 10 art styles for this video. I definitely want to do another video like this in the future when I have time to do full body illustrations for it, so hey, if there's an art style you really want me to take a crack at, let me know down in the comments. I still have a bunch of other art styles I'd like to take a shot at, but I'd love to hear what you guys want to see too. Lastly, before we go, it's time for Star's Webcomic Corner, but because I'm so pressed for time this month, we're doing something a little different. If you love reading comics and are angling for some more reading material, then I highly suggest checking out the entire catalog for the SPIDERFOREST webcomic collective. There's a bunch of rad folks making rad comics in this lineup across every genre you can imagine, and I'm honored to count myself as a member. I've been chilling in their space for almost as long as Cast Off has existed, and if you're in need of something new to read, there's a lot of gems in here. Plus, for folks who make their own comics, keep your eyes open because we're getting close to the collective's annual application season. Joining SPIDERFOREST was one of the best things I ever did for my comic, and getting to know other comic artists was hugely beneficial to my growth as an artist. So if you'd like to join a community with a bunch of other cool folks and find a bunch of new stories to read, check out the website. Link is down in the description. And that'll do it for this one, so let's rapid fire a few things here at the end. First up, if you enjoyed this video and haven't already, please consider subscribing. I'm getting super close to 200k and my goal is to hit that before my birthday in June, so if you like my videos and want to see more in the future, hit the subscribe button down below, please and thank you. Next up, my webcomic Cast-Off is officially back from hiatus, and the first volume is now available for purchase. It's up in my store with a bunch of other cool stuff like sticker sheets, so link for that is down in the description. Lastly, if you want to vote in future polls like the one I did for this video, get early access to my videos and comic pages, see a bunch of other behind-the-scenes material, and have your name be in the credits of my videos like these fine folks on the left here, you can join my Patreon. I'm hoping to add some new stuff in there in the coming months for my smaller tier, so definitely keep an eye out. Thanks so much to my wonderful patrons for their support as always, and a special thank you to my video shout-out tier patrons. Jared, Holly, Mr. Don Matsu, Leaf, Azure Knight Ruby, Alyssa Herzog, Shane Johnson, and Felix Frenzy. Thank you for helping to make my move possible because my new place has fiber internet and I will become unstoppable. Anyway, that's all for this one. Fare thee well, friends, and I will see y'all next time. Bye!